has been for the last few meetings. Chairman's additions and deletions. I don't really have any. Do we have any, Jim?
None that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. 1.4, public comment period. Is there anybody here that would like to say anything?
We have some waiting room, folks, if you can hold a moment.
Sure.
You should be good now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. If there's no comments from the public, sorry, I'm chewing on. I had to have a snack. We'll move on to appointments and hearings. So 2.1, Kathy Spofford, Town Clerk, election updates. So Kathy, take it away.
I'm sorry, Joan Savoy here. I have a comment.
Okay, I'm sorry, Joan, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Are there comments at the end of the meeting as well, or just the beginning?
Just the beginning.
Oh, okay. Sorry to start off on this note. I don't know if you all know, but someone posted Mr. Kreidler's contract online. And on the Next Door site. Jim, I don't know if you know that.
I didn't, but it is already posted online on the town's website. So it's a public document, and I would encourage people to post it any place they feel inspired.
Okay, so it has been revisited online there, and I have a question, please. I'm wondering when townspeople can come to town hall and meet with you, what your office hours are for that, and or what time during the week do you meet with town employees, please?
Well, we are open on a regular schedule right now, the regular schedule being Monday through Friday, and that is 9 to 4. And there's an intercom system that's been installed at the rear door, the main door that folks traditionally come in. And each department has a buzzer. You come in, you'd hit town administrator, board of selectmen buzzer, and you'd appear on a video monitor in the selectman's office, and you'd be engaged as to what we could do to help you. And if it was that you wanted to come in and chat, you'd be buzzed in, presuming there's no one else in the office at the time, because we try to limit the number of people in each office. So anytime between those hours, I would suggest it makes best sense to call in advance, just to make certain that whoever it is you want to see is in fact going to be in the building. So if it's me, for instance, I may have a meeting out of the building, and I hate to have you come down expecting that I'm just sitting waiting for you. So just give a call in advance, and anytime that's convenient for you. Your second question, when meet with staff, there's a department head meeting once a month, usually on the second Tuesday, and then daily as needed. So there's not a day that goes by where we don't have interaction with any number of different department heads.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And I'd like to say that background you have behind you is just delightful. That's really sweet. Whoever came up with that, that's really nice to see that. Also, so you have that nice picnic bench outside of the offices, which if someone wanted to meet with you outside, we could sit at we could meet at the picnic bench just to be outdoors.
We could do that. In fact, Veronica and I had our first meeting after she got elected, sitting on the large bench that is on the front porch. So either the front porch or the picnic table out back, whatever makes people feel the most comfortable.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, John. Anybody else? I will take crickets as a no.
Those are black crickets.
Yeah. So Kathy, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. The primary is coming up on September 1st. We are beginning to enter into early vote in person, which will begin on August 22nd, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It will be held in the Recreation Building. On Sunday, it will be 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. And during the week, it's 9 to 4, and Tuesday evening, 6 to 8. And it will end Friday, August 28th. The last day to register to vote for the state primary, if you are not a registered voter, is August 22nd, which is Saturday, from 2 to 4 and 6 to 8 at the Recreation Building. And we're doing early vote by mail. Everyone should have received a postcard in the mail if they have not already signed up for absentee voting. And we have been sending out many ballots, probably upwards around 1,400 at this point. So those are coming in. There's a drop box by the back door. It's a brown box to the left of the bulletin board out there. And people are more than welcome to drop their ballots or their applications in that box. Just my assistant and I are the only ones that have a key, so it is very secure. And I think that's about it. If you have any questions, let me know.
So Kathy, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just procedure-wise, it's going to be the same as the last election, where one way in, one way out.
Yes.
Mask required, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Contact tracing, everything. Okay.
Yeah, it worked out very well last time, so we're going to do it the same way.
Okay.
Kathy, when does early voting start? What was the...
Early voting in person starts Saturday, August 22nd.
So this coming Saturday?
Yes.
Okay. And then I have another question. These are questions that people ask me. That box that you can put your ballots on in back?
Yes.
Someone asked me if there was a camera on it. They were concerned about security of the box. And I was wondering if, you know, when you push, I said, well, when you push the button to come in, there's a camera there. Does it also cover the box?
No, it wouldn't be that camera. I believe there's an outdoor camera at that back door. It's on all the time. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the other thing is, someone told me that they received their ballots and she and her husband, their ballots were in opposite envelopes.
It was a mistake. We admit
which isn't a big deal. No, it isn't. It can just switch back. And she said just to mention that in case. They said it wasn't a problem because it was the two of them. Oh, okay, good.
Called. We discussed it.
Okay,
yep.
All right, no problem.
Very aware. Mistakes happen.
They do.
We do our best. We've been overwhelmed by what we've been handed.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. And I assume the same will end up going for the general election in November.
Yes, except I'm not sure that the early voting in person will be at the recreation center.
Right. So
I don't want
TBD.
to know. Right. So we'll have to determine that, but that will have a 2-week early voting in person period.
Okay. So we'll review that back in probably October when.
Right. Exactly. That would be great. Right.
Okay. Great.
All right. Thanks for inviting me, Wayne.
Nope. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, 2.2 Energy Committee Solar Discussion. Do we have the Energy Committee here?
I do see we have Brent.
I think Ronald and Ron Montgomery and Ed Herman are both on, and I'm not sure if there's anybody else from the committee on as well.
Do they have to call their meeting to order, Jim?
Mike Brown.
Jim?
I'm sorry?
Do they have to call their meeting to order to have a joint? Okay.
I would do that if I were you, Brent. Just, you know, call your meeting to order just so we have a record of that. In fact, Matt.
Sure. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:11 p.m. The Energy Committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that
okay?
And any opposed? Okay.
Okay. So I'm assuming this is regarding the so-called contract, or what is our solar plan as a whole, as a community. I know we've got the green communities piece to it. but there's, I know Veronica, I think it was you that had most of the questions regarding where we're going.
Do you want me to talk
Yeah,
here then?
fire away.
I guess what I would like to see is the Energy Committee to work together and with us and with any other group in town that should be involved with this, to look at kind of a master plan for energy for town. From what I can see, the Energy Committee has done a great job with reducing electric use and making things more efficient, and that's been the focus over time. And I guess at this point, with the solar piece coming in, I would like to see the Energy Committee looking at that. I know in the Townsend Energy Reduction Plan, there's a section 6, on-site renewable energy projects and renewable energy. To take a second look at that, to look at what the Board of Selectmen put together and brought forward, to look at the MVP plan, and to come up with a master plan for the community for over the next 5 to 10 years.
So can I just set the stage a little bit on where we are as a committee and how we've gotten to this point?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So the committee has been exclusively focused on the Green Communities Grant Program. In 2010, I believe it was, Townsend voted to become a green community within Massachusetts. As a byproduct of that, the Board of Selectmen at the time created this committee to focus on that. So the committee is really, its mission has been exclusively to manage this grant process, which we've gotten several $100,000 worth of grants to reduce energy costs for the town, which we're thrilled with. We have not traditionally looked at energy policy or energy in any other fashion from that. There is a discrepancy that we found just because of this meeting, that when somebody is, when they're advertising for openings in this committee, there's an extra sentence talking about working with the Board of Selectmen on energy policy. And I have to be honest that the committee has never done that. But I would also say that we have a great deal of experience on the committee to be able to jump in and do just that. I also want to say that a few years ago, the Energy Committee came forward when we first started talking about solar energy within the town. We felt at the time that there was a distinct lack of plan within the energy policy of the town. They were kind of doing it piecemeal, and it was something we felt strongly about that needed to change. At the time, it was the former town administrator and then Board of Selectmen then. We brought forward a plan to develop a master plan that we wanted to lead. We wanted to develop a policy, bring the different groups together within this town to create exactly, Veronica, what you're asking us to do now. And we were stonewalled with that. We couldn't get anywhere. And I think that it was a very, very frustrating process because we tried very hard to move anything forward. And we were just, not only were we, not getting anywhere, we weren't even getting responses from people on moving forward. So, I think there's a little bit of hesitation, at least on my part, with doing something like this, because I want to know that, there's support generally from a greater community to do something because of the experience we had and how hard it was to move anything forward previously. I don't know if anybody else in the committee wants to add to that.
And I'll speak to that right away. And I think Veronica will agree, and Don, that I think you have our attention. It's time to do it. We have a rather large solar farm in town right now that we need to do something with.
Get your phone out so you can do it.
If you guys can mute yourself, please. Thank you. So yeah, so I'm not going to speak for the rest of the board, but I think it's time to do it, and I would welcome working with you guys on coming up with some sort of master plan that addresses current and future needs.
Anybody else on the Energy Committee, Mike, or anybody want to say anything to this? Ed, Ron?
Shortly, this is Ed Herman on the Energy Committee. I was just curious of the solar farm. Are you seeking any input? Is this all been resolved? I had a few questions personally on just the how much of a discount we're getting and how that discount was calculated and such.
Yeah, we haven't done a thing with it. It's just been presented to us that the whole vote at that town meeting was basically to have the ability to have that discussion to enter into a long-term contract. So as part of that, I think we wanted to have a plan first before we obviously had that contract discussion. So that's where that lies.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to give any input on that. I have followed the Unitel rates and a little bit about municipal aggregation and competitive supply.
Okay. So Jim, I guess I would suggest setting up a work session where the two committees could jointly start kicking this off and set some goals and milestones that we want to hit and go from there.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I can work with Brent then on behalf of the board and he on behalf of the Energy Committee to do that.
And we had you know, written down some very concrete steps that should have been taken previously. I can go back and dust those off and you know, kind of rework them for where we are today, and then I'll send them over to you to look at, and we can decide next steps based on that.
Excellent. Thank you, Brent.
Yep.
Veronica, Don, does that work for you guys too?
It works for me. I would love to see what was written down before and go from there.
Yeah, great.
I think it sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, because I haven't seen it either. So, and solar from then and now is 1,000% different. So,
well, let me just be clear that we didn't have a plan. It was a process that we proposed to create a plan, and it was you know, because we didn't get anywhere, we didn't, you know, nothing really happened. So there's nothing that you would have had a chance to look at because we didn't get anywhere.
Okay.
Well, even if you have a process, Brent, that's a starting point. That's somewhere to start, and we can look at that and see how relevant it is now and go forward.
Okay,
sounds good.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you guys for joining. Unless anybody else, anything else to add to it?
Just, Mr. Chairman, just very briefly, while they're all convened, the Energy Committee, you know, Brent kind of glossed over it as though it was, you know, just a ho-hum day at the office, but they've done a really good job of bringing in green communities money and then managing the projects. Thrown a couple of curveballs on a couple of the projects. We're able to rework them and work through the state and our rep, Kelly Brown, to reprogram those funds instead of giving them back. So just while they're all here, I just wanted to say thanks to them because it's not an easy thing to work through some of the state regulatory and grant minutia, and you guys have done a really good job of it.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, guys.
Should I move to formally close the Energy Committee meeting?
Absolutely.
I'll make that motion. Any seconds?
I'll second that.
All approved?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we will adjourn.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, no problem. Have a good night.
Okay, 2-3, I know we're ahead of schedule, obviously, but water commissioners, did they, last I talked to you, Jim, they didn't respond?
No, we do have them here. We have, I see Nathan, I see Mike. I don't see Todd to my knowledge, unless he's under someone else's.
Yeah. Todd isn't here yet, as to my knowledge. We're trying to see if we can get a hold of him right now, see what his progress is.
Okay.
But you do have a quorum regardless, so two of the members.
Early. Isn't that, it's on the agenda, 6:35. I know in planning board, if we have a hearing, we wait until the time at which it was supposed to start.
Okay,
don't
I mean,
know
we can
if
jump
that
ahead and do the
delay
appointments.
approach here.
We can do the appointments.
Particularly if Todd's planning on being here at 6:35, we don't want to jump.
Yeah.
No,
If you guys have another thing you want to do first.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Nate. Perfect. So let's jump to 3.1. We'll revisit 2.3 in a few minutes. So 3.1, reappoint Karen Hill and Ann LeClaire to the Conservation Committee. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that we reappoint Karen Hill to the Conservation Commission.
And what about Ann?
I would do a second motion.
Okay,
Do we do two I mean, do you appoint
You can
people
do them
as
separately.
chair?
If you'd like, you can do them separately.
Yeah, if you can just read the effective dates into it too.
I move that we appoint Karen Hill for a 3-year term effective July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2023.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Well, I have discussion
Okay.
because there was a letter that both of you got, and I should probably address that. It was one that Jim mailed to us last week.
Okay, yep, have at it.
And so per that letter, I will not be recusing myself. The conflict of interest law doesn't compel a person from recusing themselves because someone else apparently doesn't like them. The accusations that were made against me in that letter aren't grounded in fact. In fact, the letter that Jim sent us said there were 4 complaints against me, and the one that was in the packet states that there were 2 complaints against me. So I'm not really certain which it was, but I know that all complaints were unsubstantiated. So that said, what concerns me the most on this appointment is in the last paragraph of the letter where it was, where derogatory remarks were made about the town. And I, for one, would not want a person serving on a commission, much less a regulatory commission, who feels this way about the town she serves. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Don, do you have anything?
I have to agree with Veronica. I read the letter, and I really got upset with the part at the very end, the last paragraph, and I'm not inclined to reappoint.
Okay.
This is Dave Henkels. Could I make a comment, please, on the conservation agent in Townsend, Massachusetts?
Yes, please do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. About a week or so ago, I had written Mr. Kreidler a letter, and I'm assuming the 3 of you have received a copy of that.
Yep, so we have it right here.
Yes.
Just so as the agent and as an individual that's extraordinarily concerned with the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw and everything that's associated with it. Dear Jim, in anticipation of tomorrow night's select board meeting, I am writing to you and the board in support of Karen Hill's reappointment to Townsend's Conservation Commission. In my tenure as agent, I have had the opportunity to work with Karen on countless diverse and often complicated conservation issues. Karen is smart, objective, passionate, fair, even-keeled, well-informed, and is a thoughtful, patient listener. She has volunteered and contributed enormously during her 3+ years as a commissioner. Karen is knowledgeable about the Wetlands Protection Act, as well as our local bylaws and the nuances in particular of how the two intersect. Further, she has worked with the commission as a resident/citizen when completing projects on her own property, and thus has the unique experience and perspective to see issues from multiple points of view. Karen is always prepared and is fact-based and is well-researched in forming her opinions. Plus, she is willing to stand up for what she believes is right. Karen is a critical asset to our commission and to the citizens of Townsend. And to do anything other than reappoint Karen Hill to the commission would be a significant disservice to the town, especially in the wake of Mike Turgeon's recent resignation. I strongly urge you to reappoint Karen Hill to the Conservation Commission of Townsend, Massachusetts. Respectfully, Dave Hinkles.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Any other discussion?
Yes, Karen Hill here.
Hi, Karen, go ahead.
So as far as the letter goes, I don't want to get into whether Veronica thinks the allegations are unfounded or not. I felt I had to write that letter to point out some of the things that happened on the commission. Some of them happened prior to me being on the commission. I think there are some issues that Veronica should hold back on my voting on anything on me or the Conservation Commission. Having said that, that is my opinion. I don't feel that with Veronica that I could get a fair shake with Veronica making decisions.
Okay.
Hi, Joan here. I have a question. You guys have referenced this letter. Shouldn't it be read out loud at this point, please?
I don't have a copy in front of me, Jim, do you?
Mr. Chairman, I do. Because it's been referenced in the meeting, it becomes part of the meeting's public record. It would be attached as having been referenced, but there's no requirement that it be read. And I guess out of concern for the fact that there's disagreement about the validity of the facts and or opinions contained within it, that if people would like to see it, it'll be part of the public record as of tomorrow, but I'm not certain that there's value in reading it right now unless Veronica and Karen are both of the opinion that it should be read.
It doesn't matter to me. I don't think it's pertinent right now to this discussion.
I believe if this letter is, it seems to me that it's kind of loaded. That's the sense I'm getting, that perhaps the public deserves to hear it. I mean, this is someone who's going to be ahead of a commission. I know I would, as a citizen, I would like to hear it. I mean, to have it public tomorrow after a vote seems a little odd to me.
No, Mr. Chairman, if I could just offer to Ms. Savoy respectfully that she's not voting this evening. Members of the board are voting. Members of the board have been made privy to the letter. So while it might be of interest to Ms. Savoy, it's really not something that is going to be dispositive in terms of what you choose to do or not to do. It's your vote. It's
yeah, and I think Don and Veronica have made their opinion clear there. So unless Veronica, you have something to add.
I have nothing to add. I've made my statement.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to be of record on the matter that to my understanding, there's a precedent that's being set here in having a seated commission of volunteers that have served the community express a considered opinion about one of their fellow board members with a recommendation for reappointment. And to my knowledge, that's been something that has been held fairly sacrosanct in town and has been deferred to. So while it's your prerogative to vote to not reappoint, clearly under the law, I just wanted to be a record with the fact that this does tread new ground.
Correct. Because I'm not aware if we've ever went against another seated board's decision. So
I can comment on that because there are times I can name them.
Okay, I'm just stating my time that I've paid attention to. We haven't. So
let me be clear on why I'm against it, and I'll state it again. It wasn't the fact of the letter itself. I mean, board members have not always agreed, but the last paragraph to me was a threatening to me against the town as being discriminating against women, discriminating against people of color and religion. And I'm offended by it. And I cannot, in good faith, appoint somebody that has that feeling. I don't think it's fair to the town.
All right, I think that I'll end the discussion. We'll have to vote. So all those in favor? I'll vote yes. Aye. Wayne Miller. All those opposed?
No.
Don Klein, no.
Veronica Kell, no.
Okay. All right, can I get the second appointment there then, please?
I move that we appoint Ann LaQueer to the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term effective July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2023.
Okay.
Second.
Have a second. Okay, any discussion on this one? Don, Veronica, nothing?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, all those in favor?
Don Klein, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. Okay. 3-2. We'll do this one, then we'll come back to the water because that should put us right on time. So a motion to appoint Paul, I'm going to butcher his last name, I'm sorry. Theodolou as a full, and I'm sorry, I hate doing that, as a full-time police officer. There is a correction to this, Veronica, that I received from Carolyn this morning. It's effective September 7th, not August 18th. So if you want to make that correction on the motion, please.
Are you ready for the motion?
Yes, please.
I move that we appoint Paul Theodolou as a full-time police officer for the Townsend Police Department for a term effective September 7th, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, contingent upon the passing of a medical exam and background check with a 1-year probationary period.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
It has more to do with the appointment term. It's a 1-year probationary period. Is September 7th, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, 1 year?
No, that's typically when we reappoint is the beginning of July. I don't know if that was when you first started. We reappoint all officers, police officers yearly.
Right.
So this just covers the whole term. Jim, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he will be, presuming nothing happens that would disqualify him between September 7th and June 30th, he would be on the list of reappointments, and his probation would then continue on July 1st to get to September.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, if you're ready to vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Veronica Kell, aye.
Wayne Miller, yes. And Wayne Miller, yes. So we're going to go take a step back, 6:35. So back to the water commissioner. So Nate, if you want to call your meeting to order.
Hello, everybody. I will now call the water commissioners meeting to order here on Zoom and 540 Main Street on August 18th, 2020, here at 6:35. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mike McEachran, present.
Nathan Madela, present. Not present is Todd Melanson, which is quite unfortunate because I believe he had a lot to say about this particular item on the meeting.
Okay. Okay.
So,
obviously the discussions on the superintendent first and foremost, because we had a higher than a back out. So Nate, if you want to take the discussion on that one to start.
We are audio recording as well.
Okay. Perfect.
And I have no additions or deletions at this time.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you for having us, first of all. Appreciate that. It's good to see you folks. I hope everybody's healthy, happy, and safe. So yeah, our discussion on the superintendent and IT and MIS and budget. So I don't want to speak for Todd. I know, like I said before, he had a lot to say. He wanted to be here. I don't know what's happened. So yeah. So basically, where do we stand on I understand we were out email for like a week and a half, and we're trying to get our IT squared away. So what can we do to help out, get things going here?
Well, if I can,
yeah, please
jump in,
please do.
Please. The superintendent, we wanted to get our back emails that we haven't got in a week and a half to see if there's any that have come across anymore. And Missy is going to work with Whitewater to try to get that in. I don't know if Whitewater might need to work with the town IT guy at the same time, or.
Yeah, if I could, it's already well underway. Misty, who is the staff person in the water office right now, reached out to me yesterday and said that they had White Mountain in, they were setting up their email, and they wanted to be able to import any email that has come into the old water department domain email addresses into their new one. So as of today, Guardian has set up a water at townsendma.gov, which is the new domain. So they've directed anything that might have come to either Terry or Brenda or Misty or anybody else that had an email account on our old domain to that one box, and they'll be dealing with Misty tomorrow to get her set up with the permissions. So anything that's come in since you guys were broken off with White Mountain, we'll be able to pour into that one. So she'll then have to distribute it if something is to Brenda or to Ryan. She'll have everything coming into that one main box, and she'll just be able to forward it from there. Additionally, there was some discussion today with the techs from Guardian and Jesse from White Mountain. There was some concern about the actually making the cut on the firewall and truly having the final line between electronic or IT line between the town proper and the water department severed. That's been allowed to stay on pending White Mountain being prepared to disconnect the town's sonic wall firewall and install their own. Got an email today from Jesse from White Mountain, and he was under the impression that there was going to remain a VPN, a virtual network, or basically still a connection between the water department and the town proper, through which the water department would still be able to access the server. And made it clear, actually got on a conference call, made it clear that that was not the expressed decision of the parties back when we had the meeting, probably a month or so ago. Guardian was at the meeting, Mr. Melanson was at the meeting. It was made clear that, if this is the decision to go on your own with your own vendor, it's going to be a clean cut. And in fact, it even took on, some of the discussion took on the idea of maybe Brenda or Misty driving down data on a thumb drive in order to do what they used to be able to do virtually. So that seemed to be news to White Mountain, the vendor for the water department. They weren't prepared for that at all, so they've got some additional configuration to do. And the last email I got was late this afternoon from White Mountain, and they said that they should have a plan by the end of this week and look to be able to have it fully executed by the end of next week, at which point we would be able to terminate the existing link and you guys would be up and running on your own.
Okay, Jim, thank you for the update. Yep. I could probably get a hold of Todd and find out, because I personally don't care if it's still connected, if it's less work for everybody, but I know Todd is very big into the security thing, and because of the DEP and all that stuff. So if anything changes, we will get back to you during the week here.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Wayne, can I say something on this?
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
This was that meeting where this discussion took place was my very first meeting as a selectman. So what I remembered was that there did need to be some way to communicate between town hall and the water department. I didn't remember a clean break as such, but that there would be some way. Nobody knew exactly what that way would be. It could be carrying, you know, thumb drives back and forth, but there did need to be some way to continue that connection is what I remembered. But Todd would be the person that.
Yeah, I'd like to check in with that, Todd. Thank you.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Chair, to Veronica's point, I think you'll probably remember that Guardian's concern was, and I think the metaphor that was used was you have a home with cameras and security alarms and everything buttoned up nice and tight, but you have a tunnel to your neighbor's house that's completely wide open. So you can't be held responsible as the security company for the security of the home if there's this open pipe. And that was their concern, that as long as there is a virtual connection that would allow some outside of Guardian's control to access the server, the entire infrastructure, they couldn't be held responsible for keeping us secure. So, and Wayne and Don, I would defer to your memories on it as well, but I mean, it was pretty clear to me that the decision that was being made was a clear cut, and that's why things like manually carrying thumb drives between the buildings, as silly as that sounds in today's day and age, was what was being discussed as the likely viable option.
Yeah, it was either that or email, as I remember, as the potential, but the connection would be terminated basically. So
Dawn needs to.
Right, well, we'll have to get back.
Yeah, that was my understanding too.
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess, Jim, just keep working with these guys on the communication piece and what our plan is moving forward with that. And go from there.
I have no questions on the budget because I was okay with what Jim had sent up, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I think charges. I think the question that we had scheduled a couple times, I'd come to meetings and Todd wasn't able to be there, and he was really the one member of the commission that wanted to talk about it, was the indirect charge formula or agreement, and we still haven't been able to pull off that meeting. In the interim, we had to have a budget done, so I did deal with Rebecca directly, sent her the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet's live. It shows all the formulas. It shows, you know, what percentages tied back to what amounts and what are actual easily attributable expenses. Like we have this person that has this health insurance plan at this rate. So she had the opportunity to go through the indirect cost spreadsheets, and she did recommend to you as a commission that you support that that going forward for the budget. So I still think there's going to be value in, when Todd's available, having a discussion about tweaking it to the extent that somebody thinks something should be tweaked. But without Todd here tonight, I don't know that we're going to get there.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Can you talk to Todd personally, and if he calls you, and
absolutely
work that way and do it that way?
Yeah, he referenced the community in the in an earlier email, and I pulled that community's indirect cost agreement up, and it nearly identically mirrors what we're doing here. In fact, they actually charge for a couple things that the town of Townsend general government doesn't charge the enterprise. So, but yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and as far as the super, have you guys voted to repost? What do we got? What do we have to do to get that filled?
Yeah, we've reposted, I believe, not knowing what's in that email. Well, we have one, what you said, one new applicant?
We have one application.
Yeah, we have an application in.
Okay, great.
Hopefully.
We'll keep you updated on that also.
Now, your original posting said we'll remain, continue to receive resumes until the position is filled, I believe. So you're legitimate from the original posting as well still.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, has Bobby talked to you about those job descriptions?
Bobby hasn't yet, but I've seen Brenda's emails went, what we're talking about here, guys, it's not one of the things that's listed for tonight, but the commissioners participated in the process, as did other departments, with the Collins Center in determining job descriptions. And ultimately the recommendations were either adopted or not adopted with explanation by the consultant. And a couple of the things that were being recommended by Brenda that were being forwarded by the commissioners, although I wasn't at the meetings, my understanding is the commissioners voted to submit them forward, were things that the consultant first determined that they were distinctions without difference, that if the wording was changed, it wasn't going to change the effect of anything, and then actually had business reasons for not changing the language based on their experience doing comp and class plans, that the language being suggested didn't fit the scope of the position that existed. So when Nate says, have I talked with Bobby yet, he's referring to the AFSCME union rep, and I haven't. I mean, but what I will forecast for you, Nate, that I'll say to Bobby is that job descriptions are not part of collective bargaining. They're the beginning and ending with the Board of Selectmen. It is their purview by law, by our policies, even the existing personnel policies. It runs to the Board of Selectmen. So as it is now, the board has adopted the Collins Center's plan, taken it under advisement. I don't think there's the ability to consider funding it, but it has been adopted as is. So I guess if Brenda didn't share the responses from the consultant on the requested changes, I can forward those off to somebody. And then maybe I can get them to Misty and she can get them off to each of you guys.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Tremendous.
Yes. Thank you.
You got it.
Hey,
Veronica, Don, anything else you guys want to?
Nope.
Okay, we're gonna adjourn our meeting. I move we adjourn our meeting here at 540 Main Street and Zoom at 6:49 p.m. here, still on the 18th of August.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
2 ayes in the affirmative. Motion passes. Folks, have a great night. Thank you.
Yes, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, back to our regular scheduled program. 3.3, discuss appoint Selectmen's representative to MRPC MJTC. Is there a motion there?
Well, can we discuss first on this before we make because I wouldn't give a specific motion, I guess, until I knew who wanted to be the reps.
Yeah, this was placed by Veronica as a discussion more than anything first.
We do need to vote someone into the positions, but the Board of Selectmen needs to appoint a representative to MRPC. I know that I am the liaison since I'm general government. Does that mean I am the rep?
Generally, it has.
Okay, so then I guess first motion, I move that we appoint. Can I move myself?
You may.
I move that we appoint Veronica Kell as the Board of Selectmen representative to MRPC.
And the other one too?
For a period ending, I think they go through June 30th, but I'm not sure.
They do.
So you want to grab the other one too?
Well, we should talk about that because Dawn was the Board of Selectmen rep prior, and I was the planning board rep. So I'll be happy to be the MJTC rep, but I don't want to take that away from Dawn if he wants to be that. So you see what I'm saying?
Sure. And Dawn,
but it's up to Dawn.
No, I'm happy to turn it over because I've never been able to make the meetings that they have had.
Yeah, they
was
were
always,
to make when they were Wednesday nights.
yeah. So,
But anyway, all right. So I move that we appoint Veronica Kell as the Board of Selectmen representative to both MRPC and MJTC.
Can I get a second on that?
second.
Okay, any other discussion? No, all those in favor?
Aye.
Veronica Kell, aye.
Wayne Miller, yes. So thank you for volunteering again. Meeting business 4.1 discussion town properties committee appointments. Jim.
This is Veronica as well.
This is me too.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's because the reason that I put this on is that all the town properties expired at the end of the 2020 appointments, the appointments through the end of the fiscal year or whenever they may have been. Carolyn,
it was March.
February or March?
It was March, yeah.
So there were people that were appointed and perhaps could be reappointed, but we should look at that. The makeup of the committee is, let me see if the Board of Selectmen shall first appoint the 5 members as follows: 1 member of the Planning Board, 1 member of the Finance Committee, 1 member of the Board of Assessors, 1 member of the Conservation Commission, and 1 member of the Highway Department. And if a board declines to make an appointment, then the Board of Selectmen can substitute a member from the public at large. In addition, there are 2 more members because it's a 7-person board, and those are also appointed, I assume, by the Board of Selectmen from the public at large. So first the 5 and then 2 from the public at large. So Carolyn had told me that she would talk to the, do you know, Jim, if she did, to the
I don't.
commissions to see if they wanted to reappoint the person that they had in place. So we should do that. And then we should also post for town properties so that we can get the at-large members. And the reason that this is important is if you go down to 5.2 on the agenda, I put this there. The planning board has received the DLTA grant, 2 of them. 1 to do age-restricted housing, a bylaw for market rate age-restricted housing. And the second is to do a feasibility study on properties in town that could be amenable for age-restricted housing, whether those properties are town properties or buildings that are currently vacant or whatever. So it's to look at that. And so we need the town, we being, I guess I'm talking planning board now, the planning board needs the town properties committee in place in order to complete the DLTA work for the 43D part of the grant. And there's a short time frame. The planning board is hoping to have the public hearing on October 5th. And the work on the DLT grant needs to be completed by the end of December. So it would be good to appoint the town properties committee sooner rather than later.
So, Mr. Chairman, we can get notice out to those that most recently served, whose terms expired, to see if they wish to continue. If they say yes, we can have those at your next meeting, which is scheduled for September 1st. And we can get the posting out for the at-large first thing tomorrow. If we find that somebody else isn't interested in being reappointed, then we can reach out to that board or commission to make certain that they're aware, so at their next meeting, they can put a name forward.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
So that's what that's for. So to have it on the agenda for the next, have actual appointments on the agenda for the next meeting, to at least get the 5 on. And then if we have to, you know, it depends on when volunteers come forward for the at-large piece, but.
Okay,
gotcha.
All right, good enough. All right, 4.2, discussion vote removing the reference to the deputy chief position from the comp class plan. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I move that we remove the reference to the deputy chief position from the comp class plan as submitted by the Collins Institute.
And do we have a second? Okay, so Jim, this is just basically taking that position out of the plan since.
Yeah, the position existed when the plan was done. The expectation is that the position will not exist again. So just in case future generations aren't aware of that intent, this just helps make that point clear that it's no longer a part of our system.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Anybody else have anything?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, all those in favor?
Don Klein, yes.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. 4-3, review, vote, sign, shared streets and spaces grant application for submittal.
May I put the schematic up as a shared screen? Would you mind?
Nope, go ahead, please.
Okay. So I need to share screen.
Let me get some drink.
All right, this is the application. Veronica, I don't know if you want to talk through it because you've been more involved than the other two members of the board, given that you've had some conversations on it, or if you'd like me to take the lead on it.
I'm good either way. Go ahead, Jim, because you're the one that actually did the writing with Adria, correct?
Yep. I guess from the 10,000 foot view, this is a quick hitting grant opportunity that the Commonwealth put out. It's meant to be for projects that you can roll out in a max 60-day, but preferable 30-day window. The first round has been awarded already. Second round is imminent to be awarded. And the expectation is if you approve this evening that we'll get this thing filed tomorrow and make it in under the third round. The expectation is that the work is to be completed in the end of the first, beginning of the second week in October. It will be a tight timeline for us. There's some discussion already that that's going to be pushed a little bit because they are rolling out a third round that they don't expect they'll be putting money out on the street until the middle of September. So what this is, it's a grant opportunity that's meant to touch on a couple of different areas. It's meant to touch on creating opportunities for recreation and people being outdoors, socially distant, people that have exercise opportunities, recreation opportunities, people to be able to be in better control of their food security. Curiously, there's another piece that's added that says you should be doing something that's going to be the benefit of commerce. So what we've got here is I'll get to the back page here, which I'm now realizing is going to be sideways. So it's going to take me a second to figure out how to get us where we need to be.
We'll all turn our computers.
Yeah. This is the schematic, and I should be smart enough to figure this out. Oh, get close, getting close. There we go. So if you're looking at this document where the yellow arrows are, that's the town hall and the town garage. You see Cliff's Cafe is circled in red, as is the ice cream factory. The commerce component is to create an opportunity for additional parking and seating space to benefit those two commerce establishments. Additionally, you'll note that the grass lot that is directly behind the town hall parking lot is depicted here with an exercise court shown as the blue in the diagram. And then the thatched area is shown as additional parking on permeable aggregate. This is, if people aren't familiar with it, it's almost like a plastic corrugated honeycomb that is laying into the ground. The ground is prepped and leveled, and then that's laying down, and then gravel is put into the honeycomb. So you have stable parking, but in a way that you don't get sheet flow and runoff and have drainage issues because the water can still percolate through. You have the opportunity for a farmer's market to be held with shown here, site lighting, farmer's market, tents and tables, and then some landscaping and picnic tables and umbrellas. It does show a ramp on the right-hand side of the the grass lot most closely situated to the municipal garage for people to be able to access the lot from the higher grade existing parking lot. It shows a pedestrian and bike hard packed path. That's the gray path you see. And then it comes out on Jeff Street, and there's a connecting parcel of land that is currently shown on the opposite side of Jeff Street running to the left. That's not currently owned by the town, but the property owner of this parcel, which is assessed value $600, has said that they're interested in selling it to the town for the assessed value of $600 if it makes this project flow better. So that would be a future consideration, but the plan would be to have the path continue straight through and go to the trestle lot, which is the dirt parking lot that is right off at the corner of Jeff's. You can see there's an indication of vehicle access. That's the existing vehicle access. There would be additional permeable aggregate paving there for parking. Directly adjacent to the parking, you'll see community garden space. So that's fully with southern exposure for sunshine. And along the water, there would be some tree work done, new trees planted, and benches and tables. A future component contemplated would be taking some consideration of the railroad trestle and repurposing it for either an overlook of the river and or some fishing location for fishing. So this project, all in, if you go back to the top of the document, which is also now going to be sideways. Excuse me a second, I'll spin it back around. This project engineering was put together by Weston and Sampson, who have been project engineers for us for a number of projects. It comes up with a proposed project budget for the first parcel, all in of $122,630, broken down as appears on this chart. There's a footnote that I'll come back to on that one in a minute. And then the second parcel, $78,468. So that includes things, as you see here, seating near the river, bike racks, temporary signage, lighting, loam and seed, hard packed pedestrian path, honeycomb paving system, planting beds, plants, misters, and a watering system, design and construction oversight. So the issue that I think is one that I noted in my email to members of the board when I submitted this to you for your review is found in the scope and budget for the first parcel. You'll see the second section, recreation fitness court, in-kind match from Townsend, $60,000 with an asterisk next to it. And that shows in the column that is the in-kind column. The footnote is the cost of the fitness court will be covered by the town of Townsend in the National Fitness Campaign. The reason I bring this to your attention is because this has been before the Board of Selectmen in the past, specifically the National Fitness Campaign, and their program of providing their fitness space, 30 by 30 space with their equipment, and it's rolled out as a cookie cutter fitness plan nationwide. And it's a $60,000 cost. They have awarded the town a $30,000 grant and would expect the town to come up with the balance of 30. And the Recreation Commission has gone on record voting that they would fund the $30,000. The part that has remained undetermined is whether or not the select board would approve that location for this use. So because it's been before the board but has not yet been supported, I wanted to make certain to not seem to be just slipping this through in a bigger grant where it might not have been noticed and somebody would have looked after the fact and felt sour about the fact that we were unsettled about this in our prior discussions. So I would be looking for some guidance from the members of the board as to their feelings on the fitness court, either continuing to be shown as this National Fitness Campaign or being moved to the requested amount column and not being considered in kind and being worked out as a fitness opportunity that's not specifically tied to the National Fitness Campaign.
My personal feeling on that is to make it the general, so the latter of your discussion. I'd rather not get tied into a specific item that we really didn't have a decision on last time we talked about it.
I think that one of the reasons we didn't take a position on it was the fact that we wanted to know what the overall plan was for that back lot. So if this is going to be in conjunction with it, I think that the folks that are putting forth that fitness court should come back to us again with their proposal and how this fits in.
I have two things on this. I wasn't on the board when this was discussed previously. I did go back through to find, I found the information about the grant in the minutes from February 11th, 2020. And I think that, so talking first about location, I think that it fits nicely into here. And I think it's nice that it's close to the recreation building. I think to have it right across that back parking lot is kind of ideal and for the kids. And I like the location there better than putting it back where the gardens are. I just think it's a good space. That said, I wonder how it will fit in with a farmer's market right next to it. You know, when you have people being fit right next to the farmer's market, will that, you know, be a distraction? Could we move that over to the left a little bit more rather on that lot, rather than it being right adjacent to the farmer's market? That's one thought. It kind of like fits right into that. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You know, like move it more to the green side where that green tree is or whatever that circle is. Move it more that way. Is what I'm thinking. But I just think that location-wise, in proximity to the rec center, it's a good spot. As far as the money goes, I think, I don't know why I thought that we had voted on this, but at a town meeting, but maybe it was to go for the grant. Because I know I've heard about this before and it wasn't at a selectmen's meeting. So anyway, I'm not sure where I heard about it before, but I think the fact that we have it in as 0 and that we're requesting nothing makes it, I like the way you put it into the grant to make it 0. That way we have the option of adding that if in fact we decide to go forward with it. So we could make that a separate vote at a later time, I think.
Okay.
At which time? At which time could we make it a separate vote? I mean,
within the next month, because we have to go out for bid, right? I mean, we kind of have to see if rec has the money available for the other 30,000. Where's that 30,000 going to come from? Because if we don't have it, we shouldn't do it.
Right. So that would mean the recreation component would not exist
on this. Yeah.
On this plan, right? I mean, the other option would be to carry an amount of money in the right-hand column in the grant request that is divorced from the National Fitness Campaign. If people think, and again, that's one of the components where you get points on the grant, is if there's a recreational opportunity. So if there's agreement that there should be some exercise component or recreation component there, perhaps move, Veronica, as you say, down into that more open green space so it's not directly adjacent to the tables. Maybe the better logic is to just not consider it in the in-kind column and put it into the ask column.
All 60,000 or just 30? Because we have the grant of 30 and it looks like the grant was already awarded. Is that correct?
That is correct. You know, I think in one of the early discussions, I know in February of 2020, this was discussed, but there was a prior discussion at an earlier selectmen's meeting a year prior to that, at least. And Sue was still on the board. And some of the discussion was to send the rec commission out looking at other sites, potentially viable sites. But one of the discussions at that point, to my recollection, was that you could put a lot of recreation, you could build quite a recreation court or exercise court for 60 grand. So Wayne, I think that might have been some of your
yes.
And
yes.
So maybe we don't put in the full 60 on the other side. We just put the 30. That still leaves open the opportunity to marry the two grants, the National Fitness 30 and this grant's 30. Or if we don't do National Fitness, we have 30 to put in an exercise court.
Yeah,
I think that's the better way to go, in my opinion.
I'm in agreement with that then.
I would agree.
The only other question I have, Jim, is do you know offhand how many parking spaces that will create behind the town hall?
Yes, I think it's up above. The consideration is that the tables that are shown there as little green and the tents that are shown as white, those would be obviously temporary movable things. So they wouldn't exist all the time. They'd be brought out from the municipal garage when there's going to be the farmer's market or some other event. So that entire right-hand side of that lot is shown with that thatching or honeycomb. And I want to say there's 20 some odd spaces contemplated right there. And I can tell you when we've had the biggest elections, when we as staff park out on the grass so people can come into the town hall and park, I've not seen more than 20 vehicles down there in the grass. So I think if we're able to carve off 20 spaces there, plus I think there's another 10 or 12 at the lot across the street, we'd be doing pretty well by being able to include some other amenities in the lots as well.
That's good, because I hate to see us lose any parking spaces, especially at town meeting time, because it's hard enough to find places to park as it is.
Yep.
So Jim, what do you need from us for a motion on this?
I think a motion to authorize me to submit the grant as presented, with the one amendment being on the exercise park, removing the reference to National Fitness Campaign and changing the 60 in the donate column, the in-kind column, to 30 in the grant request column.
Can I get a motion, please, then?
I move that we submit the shared streets and spaces grant with the addition of 30,000 into the grant requested amount and removing the in-kind, well, not the in-kind, the 30,000 from the National Fitness Campaign, references to that.
It would be removal of the 60 for the National Fitness Campaign.
Correct.
Right.
And putting 30 in the grant requested amount.
Gotcha.
All right. This is something that maybe we can, that's the motion. Anything else needed for the motion?
Just a second.
Can I have a second? Okay, all those in favor?
Can I just?
Don Klein, yes.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes.
And we'll talk after. It's more details, like a crosswalk from the one side to the other side. Will there be a painted crosswalk?
Yeah, there will be, and a couple of other just minor points for folks following along at home. The parks superintendent, Roger Raposa, has said, you know, whatever in terms of some of the prep work that can be done as in kind, sign them up. Just let them know where to be and when. So he was wonderful about it. Highway department as well. Conservation, Mr. Henkel had indicated that he'd be happy to work us through the filing of any notice of intent that might be required, because we'll be as proximate as we will be to the river. goodness, there are a couple of other folks that I spoke with as well, but everybody that you can imagine would have something to do with this has been really excited about it and committed themselves to it. So the expectation is if we get the award, we're going to be all hands on deck to get it done before winter hits.
I think it's great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. 4.4 discussion policy for posting, hiring, and supervision of positions. So I'm not sure. Is this another one for you, Veronica?
This is the same thing that we talked about last time. You know, it's a continuation of that.
Mr. Chairman, the only takeaway from the last meeting on this issue was whether or not there was value in having some additional policy work done around nepotism. And you'd given me direction to speak to Adam about that. Mm-hmm. So there is in your packet at 4 point, let's see.
Yeah, I have the procedure in front of me.
Yeah. Trying to find where it might be a little deeper in the packet that I'm seeing, but Adam did respond back to the specific questions you had regarding section 19s generally, and more specifically the one that was before you last week. There was a question about whether or not council would offer an opinion or guidance on the matter. So have you each had a chance to see that email from him that's in your packets?
I have.
Yep.
If people haven't read it, we could move this to the next meeting and talk more then.
I would prefer that. I haven't had a chance to comb through it very much.
Yeah, and I haven't had a chance to read it.
So then let's defer this to September 1st, if that's okay with everybody.
That's fine.
Fine.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And Jim, this is again me trying to figure out how this all works. Will this again be put in the packets, or should we save this information from this packet for the next meeting? Do you see what I'm saying?
We generally will redo it, just because my experience has been that people have said they're going to save it and bring it, but oftentimes didn't.
Okay.
So we'd be running out during the meeting making copies. So yeah, we'll redo the whole pack.
Thank you.
Okay.
One second, folks. I'm sorry. Why are we saying that? Yeah. Kathy Spofford, town clerk, just came in. Your next regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting would be 9/1. She just came in a panic because that's the day of the election.
Oh, yeah.
You would normally either not meet if there's an election or meet at a different location. So she just wanted to be on record with that.
Well,
I figured that out.
Since we're doing it remotely, I don't think it really affects town hall at all.
She said, duh. All right, thanks.
Duh is so noted.
Got it.
Okay.
Hey, I'm sorry, Jim, could I trouble you to remove the lovely, by the way, that's a fabulous plan. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's move along. 4.5, declare surplus the following vehicles. Can I get a motion on those? We can probably take them all at once, can't we, Jim?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
I move that we declare as surplus the 2007 Ford 350 Squad, the 1996 Ford F350 bucket truck, truck 10, and the 2001 Articat 600 snow machine, all value to be determined.
Second.
Okay. And this is from the fire department, I see.
It is correct.
Okay. Any questions, guys?
Just for those following at home, there is a bylaw that dictates how this stuff is handled. So the Board of Selectmen will be presented things from time to time. You declare them surplus, and then they're put out to other departments first to see if anyone in another department might have an interest in the equipment. If not, then they're put out generally. So there'd be a bid process that would come out of this if these things aren't picked up by another department.
Okay, all those in favor?
Don Klein, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
And Wayne Miller, yes. 4.6, review, approve updated policy use of credit cards. Jim,
there's a policy to date that says that the town would be allowed to use like store cards, get a Home Depot card, a Staples card,
yes,
but not a major credit card. What we're finding, particularly with Zoom, you know, this account we're using right now is on my card. So it's not an issue that I'm not going to get reimbursed for, but it's probably not good business to have employees using their cards for official business like that. So what the treasurer and the accountant have agreed to do is to move forward, if you agree to amend the policy, to have one Visa or MasterCard kept by the accountant under lock, not to be taken by anybody, to be used someplace, but only to be used for things like this, where there's a good or service that is needed, is in the benefit of the town, but can only be purchased through a use of a credit card. So it would require an edit of your policy to show as it says in the first bullet under types of credit cards, major credit cards, MasterCard, Visa, Discover, are only allowed to be held by the town accountant, and all usage must be coordinated with the town accountant. Everything else in the policy would stay as it previously was voted.
Okay. So this would be the first reading of said amended? Okay.
Yeah, and your policy on setting policies requires that there be 2 readings unless by unanimous vote. So you could by unanimous vote this evening adopt this if you felt inclined. I know that Beth Faxon also has the planning board's Zoom account that she's been using her card on. So no violent objection. I think if there's a unanimous vote to make the change, I'm sure that would be appreciated.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
I'm not sure what the motion is. Can I ask questions first, or do you want me to move?
Make the motion first, please.
I move that we consider this the first reading of a change to the use of credit cards.
Yep, that's fair.
And can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Veronica. What do you have?
All right, first question is, where is the existing credit card policy? It's not under the Board of Selectmen policies that I could find unless I'm not looking in the right place.
I believe it is. When I looked it up, I went under Selectmen policies, and I believe I found it there. I can check and find that out. But
I can do that tomorrow.
Yeah, this was actually voted just this past. If you look at it's policy number 1 of 2020. So this is a relatively new one.
Might not be up on the website yet. I didn't see, oh, I see, policy 01, 2020, okay. So I was confused about that. I didn't know if this was brand new or if it was an update, even though it said an update in the agenda.
Right.
So I would want more time to look through this. I guess I wanted to know what was the rationale for no credit cards in the past? Why wasn't there a credit card? I mean,
I wasn't here when the original decision was made to not have a credit card allowed. No.
Wait. So this then, what I'm holding in my hand here is you're considering policy 01 of 2020.
That is correct. This is the first time a policy change has come before the select board in 2020. This is a revision of an earlier policy.
All right.
If I was unclear there, which I fear that I was, I apologize. But no, this is a policy that predates my employment. I've been here now in my 5th year, and it existed before I got here.
Okay.
I know other communities that I've been, there have been credit cards that, again, are tightly controlled. But what the rationale is here, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, I was curious about the $6,000 number. And then also, is there a form, like you know how you have to sign the conflict of interest policy, and you have to sign this policy, and is there a form that an employee has to sign to agree to this policy if they're going to be someone who's using the credit card? You know, on employment, do you sign that form, the department head or whomever?
Yep, my understanding, Veronica, and I can check to be certain, but my understanding is anytime the selectmen put a policy forward, it goes out and everybody has to acknowledge it because they're going to be held to it. So I can check and see what the original date was when it was sent out originally when the policy was created, and on the update, if this in fact happens, that the same form would go out, but there are sign-offs.
Okay, so tell me about first and second readings. If we do a first reading, can we make changes to the verbiage?
Absolutely. That's the purpose of a first reading is yeah, I read that. It looks pretty good, but I'm not ready to make it real yet because something might come to me in the next 2 weeks. And then before the vote on a second reading, you can make edits, you can amend it, you can leave it as it was. It's really your prerogative.
Okay, because this never made it into a work session. And so I'd kind of like it, for me, I would like or is this the work session? This is going straight into meeting business, right? For me, I would have liked to have had a work session so I could comment on it first. That's me. I don't know how you guys have been doing things.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think that we've really made a distinction between meeting business and work sessions in terms of being able to comment or I think it's just this is I think more historic than operational.
Right. In planning board, you do the work, you talk about it, you know, and during the work session. And then so it's a difference in how I've been doing things.
Sure. Well, that makes sense.
The other, you want to know a typo? Because it was kind, I think
I do.
Vendor is VENDOR as opposed to ER.
And that's in that first bullet?
It's in about 3 or 4 places through here.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a typo, and it would be nice to have it fixed.
Absolutely.
It's a nit, but anyway. All right, and I had questions about authorize the use of the controls thing. I wanted to talk about that too. So, I mean, we can do a first reading, and then how do I make changes in a second reading if in fact that's what I want to suggest?
When it's on the agenda at the next meeting, once it's before the board, a motion is made for a second reading, and during discussion, you'd offer amendments. Yeah.
Okay.
And just point of history, Veronica, that we've done this several times where we had first reading and second reading, we changed something to clarify or add or whatever. So
Okay.
This is normal.
All right, so I need to find the existing policy and then go from there and making any changes that I might want to make. It might be perfectly okay the way it is, but I want to look at the old policy.
Okay. Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, I'd encourage you to talk to Lori, the town accountant, if you want a little bit of, from the town accountant's legal perspective, why these limits exist and why it's written the way it is. She'd really be I think the best source of information for you.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor?
Tom Klein, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. Moving along, 4.7, review, approve, sign out of session, amended restated conservation restriction for 16 Bootel Road. And we got a.
So this is the point at which I am going to recuse myself. And so I'm going to unmute.
She can't hear you.
Okay, so this is
what Veronica was just explaining to us when she prematurely cut off her mic is that just from an appearance perspective, she wants to recuse herself because this is a land matter, conservation land.
So in short, Jim, this is basically someone that has donated to us in the past and is willing to give us more of that said conservation restriction land.
Just restating the existing conservation restrictions.
Okay. Do we need a motion or how do we?
Just a motion to accept and approve the amended and restated conservation restriction regarding 16 Boutel Road.
Okay.
And I
Don,
would announce real quick, this is Andrew Bentley from New England Forestry Foundation, holder with Townsend Conservation Land Trust of this conservation restriction. If anyone has any questions, just let me know.
Okay, thank you for attending. Don, can I get a motion on that, please?
Sure. I make a motion that we approve and sign out of session amended and restated conservation restrictions, reference 16 Bartell Road.
And I'll second that. Any discussion, Don?
No, I'm familiar with it.
Okay, I'm fine with it as well. So all those in favor?
Don Klein, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. So Veronica, you're welcome back. Jim, 5-1 Town Administrator updates reports.
Yes, we'll wait for Veronica to sign back in. Because these are
while you're doing that, I'm going to turn the light on.
as well.
There she is.
All right, so 5.1.1, and then below it, 0.1 and 0.2 again. So this is Townsend Community Access Media Incorporated. So this is something that, again, Selectwoman Kell had asked for background information on the process to date that the board has undertaken regarding the creation of the Cable Access Corporation. So I will, actually, I could share the document or I could just read through it. What's your pleasure?
Just a summary as to where we are. I mean, I've read it and I think everybody else, we've all read it.
I didn't hear that second part, somebody?
Don just said he read it too.
Oh, okay. So what this really addresses is, as of November 2015, the select board executed a 10-year franchise agreement with Comcast. So they are the cable operator provider that has the franchise license with the town of Townsend. Contained within that document, there's a transition date, at which point in time the PEG, or Public Educational and Governmental Access Television responsibilities, would transition from Comcast to the town. And that did occur as of December 15th of 2015. So it was at that point in time that Hartley, who had been an employee of Comcast, was now no longer an employee of Comcast, and we had to figure out a way to account for him within our organization. The way it was handled by the board at the time was that there was an amendment made to the contract with REA. That was the group that was doing our IT at the time, and they took Hartley under their wing, and there was an increase in their contract to account for the ability for them to be able to pay Hartley. So that carried on that way until he was turned into a town employee in 2016. So as of the transition date, December 15th of 2015, the town began to receive, pursuant to that franchise agreement, a quarterly payment equal to 5% of all expenditures by town residents on their Comcast bills. So during the quarantine, if people are doing pay-per-view stuff and spending more money, then we're going to see an increase in our quarterly check next quarter. The agreement also had two side letters. One was an agreement to cover previously unserved area down on Vinton Pond Road, that end of Bayberry and Sauna Road. That project is underway, and I believe I've been forwarding to you folks emails each time we've received an update on that. And I think we're next due an update from Verizon. It's their turn to do their work on the poles in order to make them ready for Comcast to be able to string cable. And that's supposed to be underway. They've given it a number and they've assigned an engineer. The other side letter was providing $130,000 as payment for the town transitioning and the town owning and operating the PEG access function. And the that 130, a portion of that was to be used to pay for the town's share of the cable system expansion project. So that 130 has grown over the course of a number of years to be the 4 25, that was referenced to the town meeting article to be transferred to the Cable Access Corporation with the proviso that there is a hold on some number of dollars to be able to perform that system expansion. You then see that since the inception of, it's actually going to be easier for me, Wayne, instead of trying to paraphrase it, if I just run through it. Since the inception of the new agreement, the Cable Television Advisory Committee, comprised of citizens appointed by the Board of Selectmen, have been working concurrently on the system expansion and the creation of a nonprofit cable access corporation to take over the PEG access staffing, programming, and equipment. With the approval of the Board of Selectmen from 2016 through 2019, the Cable Television Advisory Committee tried unsuccessfully to work with 2 different attorneys that specialized in cable access work in Massachusetts. In 16, the board voted to authorize the first counsel, William Hewig, to represent the town in drafting the corporate documents and create the nonprofit access corporation. That effort stalled. In 2018, the board voted to authorize the second counsel, attorney William Solomon, to represent the town in the drafting of the corporate documents to create the nonprofit cable corporation, and that effort also stalled. February 11th of 2020, the board voted to authorize a third counsel, attorney William August, to represent the town's interest in drafting the corporate documents to create the nonprofit access corporation, the bylaws, and the operating agreement. April 2nd, 2020, the Board of Selectmen voted to authorize the town administrator to sign for the acceptance and approval of the bylaws of the Townsend Community Access and Media Incorporated, and further, as was during the height of COVID-19 pandemic, authorized the town administrator to execute any other documents on behalf of the town with the approval of the chair. And I've added emphasis to that part of this document, with the approval of the chair. April 30th, 2020, per the April 2nd vote of the Board of Selectmen, and after consultation and approval from the chair, the town administrator executes the, quote, formation of a nonprofit community television access corporation form, approving the articles of incorporation to include the 3 original incorporators and the bylaws. There's a footnote. That footnote reads in the bottom, solely for the purpose of having a clear public record of the matter before the board, consistent with the bylaws which were approved by the select board, I would recommend a confirmatory vote of the named incorporators. So what am I saying there? The bylaws that you approved said that the initial incorporators would be appointed by the select board. The documents that were executed on April 30th, that included the formation of a nonprofit community television access corporation, included the 3 original incorporators. So that has been approved by my signature after consultation with the chair pursuant to the April 2nd vote, making such an authorization possible. But there's no clear record of the Board of Selectmen ever having voted to appoint those 3 incorporators specifically. So while I'd argue that it's not necessary, I think it'd be good business to have such a vote. So I do get to that at the end of this document. Moving forward, June 23rd, Secretary of State approves the incorporation of the Townsend Community Access and Media Incorporated. June 25th, attorney William Solomon is brought on by the newly created nonprofit to represent the interest of the nonprofit corporation vis-a-vis the operating agreement. What does that mean? That means that now there is a the town of Townsend and a separate legal entity, this community access nonprofit. There needs to be an agreement developed between the bodies, the town and the Cable Access Corporation, that details how they're going to operate with one another. So the operating agreement. The August 5th, 2020, Attorney August forwards copy of a final draft of the operating agreement for the Board of Selectmen's consideration at the August 18th board meeting, which is today. And 10, final agreement attached and is recommended by council to be approved by the board. So to step back a little bit and go to what I think I was understanding from Veronica as having been some of the questions, the perception as I heard it was that nothing had been being done to the viewer of Selectmen's meetings. And the response that I'd offered at that time was that the work was being done by attorneys that had been hired by the board that specialize in this subject matter. So what we have here is the April 2nd adoption of the bylaws that have been created by that attorney. and the April 30th adoption of the paperwork setting forth the creation of the corporation, and now ultimately the final document that's been worked on by both attorneys, the attorney representing the Access Corporation and the attorney representing the town, or you, is in your packet for consideration. So with that overview, I will anticipate questions.
And there will be, of course. Should I go, Wayne, or do you guys want to talk first?
I don't have any questions about it, so.
Well, no, I'm sorry, Don.
No, I don't have any questions either. I'm familiar with this, but I've been dealing with this since I've been on the board.
Same.
I guess I have questions about the bylaws. Are you telling me that the bylaws that were in the packet for the April 2nd minutes are the bylaws of the corporation? And I'm asking these questions because I did, along with several others, back in 1988, we created the Townsend Conservation Land Trust at the suggestion of the town in order to support the open space preservation development bylaw that was adopted by the town as a result of that master planning process in the mid-1980s. So,
yes.
So I've questioned, so these are the bylaws, because I have questions about them if they are the ones that were signed. I mean, they aren't filed with the Secretary of State. And I guess my understanding, and laws can change, but I thought if you were applying to be a 501c3, it was required that you, you have your bylaws filed, but maybe they don't do it until after they file with the IRS in order to get that status. I'm unclear.
What I can tell you, Veronica, is that that horse has left the barn. The corporation that exists has approved these bylaws, as has the Board of Selectmen. So these are the bylaws of an entity that is separate and apart from you and outside, at this point, of your consideration. Okay. What is before you for consideration is still quite a bit of leverage. Quite a bit of leverage is the agreement.
But that agreement, I don't find a reference to it in the bylaws. And that's my first concern. So I also, you know, the bylaws uses in one place the term issuing authority, but the definition of issuing authority is not in the bylaws. It is only in the draft agreement. So that's fine, because I knew what issuing authority meant because I read the bylaws after I read the draft agreement. But without that, I would not have known. I also flagged, and this is why you have your first motion, the tenure and qualifications. The bylaws say that the Board of Directors shall initially consist of those 3 persons appointed by the town of Townsend, Board of Selectmen, and named as directors in the articles of organization, as filed with the Massachusetts Secretary of the Commonwealth. That has already happened. So my question was, did this already happen? Well, I know the filing of the articles of organization has already happened, but we as the Board of Selectmen did not appoint those persons to the board.
I think, Veronica, and this is a conversation that the chair and I had, the Board of Selectmen took a vote. So it exercised its corporate authority to allow the town administrator to execute documents during this pandemic on behalf of the board, blanket, not specific or narrowly tailored, blanket, with the proviso, with the approval of the chair. So what
so
that...
You're saying even though these bylaws in a lot of places don't make sense, like who is the superintendent? It says, said election shall be for the 3 successor directors, not appointed by the Board of Selectmen and the superintendent.
What I can tell you, Veronica, is these were...
You're telling me that it doesn't matter what I think about these.
I would never say that. I would never say what you think doesn't matter. What I would say is, notwithstanding what you think, this is done. These bylaws have been approved by the town and then sequentially have now been are now part and parcel of a separate legal entity that is outside of you.
Okay, I guess then I'll go to the annual report. If I look at the draft agreement, we say that, okay, so draft agreement, let me get to this. The annual hearings, section 5 in the draft agreement. So the question is, do we need to request this meeting or is it automatic? Because if I look at annual report in the bylaws, it does not, it says, upon written request of the Board of Selectmen. If I read the draft agreement, I think that they have agreed that this is going to happen. If I look at the bylaws, the corporation says, you, the Board of Selectmen, have to request this of us. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't matter. We're not going to do that.
That's
So
where I said moments ago that you still have leverage while you are not able to touch or play with the bylaws. You still have before you the big dog, which is the money, because they can have a corporation and they can have bylaws, but if they don't have the money, they don't exist. They're a shell. So until this operating agreement that's before you this evening is approved, they're stuck. They've got nothing. So if you find that there's value in saying, notwithstanding any other provision of the bylaws to the contrary, it's an automatic meet, then I think that's a lovely suggested edit. I can say that this has been reviewed by the 2 subject matter expert attorneys for cable franchising and nonprofits. So I generally will defer to what they presented, but if you feel strongly about trying to reconcile those 2 things, I think that's lovely.
I think that my 2 motions are different from your 2 motions.
I don't make motions. I just offer
Suggested motions then. The 2 motion, and I'll talk about your proposed motion 1 in a little bit, but my proposed motion 1 would be to move to meet with the directors of the corporation, just to make sure that because it's not a big deal, but it is a deal. And bylaws can be edited. There's a mechanism with the Secretary of State to change your bylaws. And given that the bylaws have not yet been filed with the Secretary of State, I don't know if they've been sent to the IRS for 501c3 consideration. But I would want to meet with, my first motion would be to request that we meet with the directors of the corporation to have this, to make sure we're all on the same page. And then my second would be to submit questions to you to be sent to Bill August, unless we can send them directly to him on the draft agreement, because I do have questions on the draft agreement.
Well,
So,
neither one of those are actual motions. So, I mean, if you're just asking to ask Jim to set up a meeting with them, then that's just a request and we can move along.
okay, then I would request that. And part of that is because I had a discussion with Jerry Rissett. I didn't even know who he was. This was not a discussion that I requested or anything like that. It just came upon me. Were either of you, Dawn or Wayne, approached by any members of this table board after town meeting on the 25th of July?
No.
No.
So I would want to talk to the directors before I made your proposed motion 1, because I want to make sure that this is actually what the directors want for the corporation.
So if I understand that correctly, they have assented to and signed incorporating documents wherein they are named and agreeing to be directors, but you want to make certain that that's what they wanted to do and it wasn't somehow done against their will?
I believe that they actually wanted to do it. I don't think they wanted to remain as the directors of the corporation for any long period of time.
And again, that is the corporation's business and not yours, right? The selectmen can no sooner tell you as a member of the land trust who your successor director should be than you have the authority to tell this group.
The difference here is that no one from the town was ever giving the land trust money from the town hall. Here, we are funding this corporation.
But we are not, to be clear.
Not totally, but.
Not at all. We are merely acting as a conduit. These aren't taxpayers' funds. These are PEG access funds. So it's being used for that purpose.
And I want to be sure that the corporation is solid. I want to be sure that the funds that, I mean, one of the articles in the bylaws, they can make these same agreements with other municipalities. I want to know that the funds that we are the conduit for are actually being used for the benefit of Townsend. I just have concerns. I'm sure it's all workable. I just have concerns and questions when I read these things. I also want to know, if you want to go to the draft agreement, the senior center and the library are not listed as being supported to, you know, for coverage. There are things in the draft agreement that I want looked at a little bit differently or added to. Not huge things, there's small things. And I want to make sure that this works, because I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just want to make sure that it works and that we can be confident in how it works. We, the town.
Sure. To Wayne's point, if you have those questions, you flip a quick email to me. I'll get them to August. We'll get the answers in time for the next meeting. In terms of your invitation to the directors, I guess I'd ask you to perhaps be cautious about inviting them as directors if it's your belief that they are not yet directors.
Oh no, they are directors. They absolutely are.
But you take the position, I think I understood, that they've not been appointed by the board, which...
They were not appointed by us, and they should have been prior to the articles of organization being filed. If you read the bylaws and if you look at if you read this document as well.
Sure, I agree that that's what the document says. I think that when I went through moments ago, the votes of the Board of Selectmen granting in its corporate authority that I could execute documents with the approval of the chair and it would represent the vote of the board, that extension, that logical extension is, if I am executing a document that has those three names and that is a vote of the board as approved by the chair, they've been appointed by the board. I did recommend in the footnote in this document that I read that to have a clear record of that, though, because these are weird times we're living in, that a confirmatory vote, just so there is something of record, would be in order. But be that as it may. So whatever questions you have, I'm certain that he'll flip the answers back very quickly to you.
Well, in the interest of time, let's move along from this one, and Jim, you and Veronica can work through this before our next meeting and get this finalized.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good.
Okay. Sidewalk update.
Yep. Very similarly, in your packet, you have a document. This comes from a question from Veronica at the last meeting. There are two sidewalk related matters. One is the common sidewalks. There's a document, very briefly, November 28th of 17, town meeting appropriated $25,000 for the common sidewalk repair. July of 18, Cemetery and Parks bid the project, but the bids exceeded the available funds. November of 19, the town submitted a request to Senator Tran and Representative Harrington for state funding for the sidewalk project. And the next month, state funding in the amount of $70,000 was approved. The next month, January 2020, Summit Engineering was procured for the design, engineering, and contract administration of the project. March of 2020, the state contract was executed to secure the funding, and the funding has in fact been transferred to the town. August of 2020, specifications being finalized by Summit Engineering for bidding. with September 2020, the expected bidding, and October of 2020, expected construction. So that is the sum total of the common sidewalks. Any questions on that one?
So the monies are in place to fund the construction?
70,000 state funding is in hand in the town's accounts, and the $25,000 appropriation from town meeting is also segregated in an account for this purpose. So we won't know until the bids come in that $95,000 is sufficient or not, but the funding that has been projected to be sufficient is in hand and ready.
Okay.
Okay. Nothing else on that. We go to the 119 sidewalks.
Yep.
Again, a brief chronology. July of '99, Mass Highway was planning on reconstructing Route 119 from Route 13 to the Pepperell line. If the town did the engineering and secured the rights of way, Mass Highway was willing to pay to put in sidewalks as a part of the roadway project. A couple of months later, October of '99, engineering for the sidewalks from the town common to Spalding Street. The engineering cost estimate was $31,000, and it never went anywhere. There were no funds ever appropriated, so the work was never completed. Fast forward 3 years, October of '02, engineering for the sidewalks from the town common to Spalding Street. The engineering cost estimate now was $75,000. Special town meeting vote to fund that engineering failed, and that work was never completed. Fast forward 3 years, 2.5 years later to May of '05, annual town meeting appropriated $100,000 for engineering for the sidewalks. The next year, November of '06, engineering for the sidewalks from the town common to Spalding Street. The engineering cost estimate now escalated to $250,000. It exceeded the budget, so it was never completed. September of '12, Board of Selectmen committed $25,000 of the town meeting engineering money to the Squanicook Greenway Group for sidewalk engineering at the harbor, leaving $75,000 as a balance. July of '14, Mass Highway did the Route 119 roadway project, and we did not provide the engineering or rights of way for sidewalks, so they weren't included. December of '15, town engineered from the common to Sterilite at a cost of $72,000, so the project was shrunk in order to fit in the budget. And there was a $3,000 appropriation balance remaining uncommitted, which sits today. June 2020, I had asked the highway superintendent to get an updated project construction cost from Weston and Sampson when considering the Streets and Spaces grant offering, which we discussed a little earlier. The project cost came in at just around $1 million, which exceeded the grant cap of $300,000. So we moved on to the project that was before you earlier this evening. So that is the sum total of all of the history of the sidewalks on 119. So we have engineering in hand from the common to Sterilite and no funding for construction.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. So where are we going to get the funds for the sidewalk?
As of right now, I don't think that this is even a topic of discussion as far as funding.
Well, I think that maybe in the back of my head, when I'm at MRPC or MJTC meetings, this is what I needed to know. Mm-hmm. I'll keep this in mind because they talk a lot about this stuff, and there are monies around. I just don't know where, but I'll keep that in the back of my head, and I will put it on the agenda when it's ready to be talked about.
Wonderful.
Next email. I know I got an email from Guardian asking me to call and set it up. I haven't had time to do that yet.
I did it.
Okay, good.
It was really easy.
Okay, so I'm planning.
So do it, yeah.
Okay, yep. So I'll get that done. So thank you for setting that up, Jim.
Yeah, just to let you know, I declined.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did. I decided I don't want to go that route. I've got one that's working, and I'm not, at this point, I'm not changing.
Okay.
Well, if this doesn't work for me, I'll go back to my other one, but.
Okay, that's your call.
Yeah, the one concern Guardian had and they wanted expressed is from a records retention perspective. We have a legal obligation to retain 7 years worth of documents. We don't have custody or control over private Gmail accounts. So there is a disconnect there. If we are asked by the Attorney General's Division of Open Government, can we produce your emails off your Gmail account? Our answer would have to be maybe, which isn't a great answer for the conduct of public business and transparency. So that's why Guardian is
well, while you're on that topic, then let me state this, that I've gone through 3 email addresses since we started this. I've tried to keep what I could. One's on my private email server, but I'm not going to keep it there. So I've opened a cloud account and I've put stuff in my cloud account. When I opened up the Gmail account, I did the same thing. I have a cloud account that it's backed up to, so it's kept there. The one that I don't have is the original town one, which never really worked right to begin with.
Right.
So anything that was in there got blown away. It got blown away when we had that security breach, and we could never recreate it. So.
Gotcha.
Okay. Next, 5.1.4,
COVID-19 updates. Employee protocols. You should have each received a document from Stacy, the library director, a copy of which has been printed in your packets. This document reflects what the trustees have voted to put in place for employee protocols. It deals with workplace health screening, situations requiring action, next steps, actions for a variety of different potential situations that are presented, and ends with a HIPAA reminder. The other document that you have under this heading for 5.14 is the Phase 1 protocols for employees returning to work, which is currently operative, that was endorsed by the board. It does, I would suggest you markedly the same thing that the library one does. So I know that there was some concern, as I understood it from Stacy, that there wasn't a clear and easily followed protocol. I guess I put them both in your packet for your consideration. The trustees have the ability to set policy for the library. Statutorily, they are empowered to do that. So they have every right to do this. It gets a little dicey under COVID, where you're looking to have a clear and consistent message across all facets of the organization. So I've reviewed them against each other, and I don't see any direct conflict. I think there's just some different phrasing. So I just wanted to make certain that you were aware of both of these documents. I know Wayne and Dawn, you were on when we did this. Veronica, you weren't. But just, this is available on the website, and we will be also including the libraries because they have every right to have voted it.
Yep, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I liked Stacy's. It read well. This one I like too. They say the same thing. They just say them in a different way. That's all. Yeah.
So again, I don't find any inconsistencies that would cause trouble, and they have a right to do it. So I just wanted to make certain that you had your eyes on it before we went and posted it up.
Okay. And relief funding?
Relief funding. This was on the agenda at the last meeting, and I dropped out on you guys technologically, so we didn't get to handle it. But there is the big scheme is the federal reimbursement through FEMA, and there are a limited number of things that are eligible for reimbursement when you're dealing with FEMA for emergencies such as the pandemic. I know, Dawn, you're familiar with this. You in fact still exist on some of the old SAMS account paperwork for natural disaster relief work when you were chief. You just popped up in an email today that was still had you in the header. So we've got things that we can be reimbursed for from FEMA at 75%. The Commonwealth very uncharacteristically stepped into the void during this pandemic and said, that they will provide funding to cover the 25% balance that FEMA doesn't cover. Additionally, they will cover at 100% things that FEMA doesn't cover at all. So again, this, Wayne and Don, you were on. Veronica, this predates you, but they sent out a pretty detailed policy document on what types of things were eligible for reimbursement from FEMA and what things were eligible through the CARES Act at the state level. The spreadsheet that you have in front of you describes the things that have been submitted for and or approved to date. Now, what FEMA does is it doesn't set a dollar value that is available to the town of Townsend. You submit the things that are eligible and they determine how much of it they're going to fund. It's different with the state level. The state actually, through a formula that no one quite understands, but they determined an amount of money that they were going to allocate per community from federal corona relief funds that they received. For the town of Townsend, it's $841,000. I can't imagine, quite honestly, that we're going to come anywhere near the need to spend $841,000. Now, there are always needs, but they have to be needs that are tailored to this pandemic, tailored to the types of things that are listed as eligible. So we went through an original exercise. We submitted a request out to all departments to read the rubric, determine what their needs are by department, and submit a list, and we would roll it all together into one big ask and send it into the state. And the state came back and said, you know, yep, this is covered. If you had to rent a condo to have first responders have a place to go if they had an exposure and they couldn't go home to their families, that's covered for reimbursement. And yes, you had overtime because of, you know, people that had exposures and weren't able to work shifts. So that's covered. And the PPE that's required to be purchased, whether it's the masks or the sanitizers or gloves, those things are covered. So we submitted all those things and we've received approval. We also had some pretty creative attempts, you know, submitting for vehicles that are clearly not covered, submitting for fingerprint machines with the argument that it's less hands-on for the officers if there's an electronic fingerprinting machine as opposed to having to physically roll people's fingers across ink. You know, clever attempts at funding, but that we were told no on. So the things that appear on that sheet for you are the things that have been submitted and or approved. So under direct staffing, we have police and fire overtime, and facilities, a paltry $120 overtime. And the vacation buyback that you authorized as a board for employees that had vacation that weren't allowed to take it because they were essential and would otherwise have lost it is covered under this topic. Next, you see Section B, quarantine isolation costs for first responders. That's to cover the cost of a lease that was secured for a condominium in town. Temporary staff backfilling. Fire department had temporary staff to backfill for quarantined employees. And we then get into something that is covered only by the state and not by the FEMA portion: accelerated telework capacity infrastructure subscriptions for meetings hardware, laptops specifically. By department, you see figures there for work to be done. You'll see things as small as Zoom accounts at $20 a month to something as big as cameras and screen speakers for Memorial Hall. So the Memorial Hall, when you do open back up for actual live meetings, you won't be meeting in the Selectmen chambers so long as there is a requirement for social distancing, because the configuration of the room wouldn't allow any more than maybe 2 or 3 guests or residents in the audience. So we anticipate we'll be needing, based on COVID, to be in the Memorial Hall. That doesn't currently have the infrastructure for camera and sound. So we've been approved to actually have all of that infrastructure put in place such that you'd be able to conduct your live meetings in that space. So we range from Zoom accounts to the big ticket for the entire infrastructure for the Memorial Hall in that category. We then see the PPE section. By department, you'll see a breakdown of the request for PPE. You then see cleaning and disinfection of buildings. Again, by department. Included in this is the now 3 times referenced part-time cleaning positions we have available that we can't seem to fill. 19 hours a week, flexible schedule, $20 an hour, but those are approved under this COVID funding. So if anyone's listening at home that knows somebody with an interest, please reach out and let us know. We next see public health mission. There's some travel expense for the Council on Aging. There's signage and communication and translation services, relatively modest numbers. Educational materials, again, modest numbers. The next section you get to is grocery and or meal delivery, a modest number from the Council on Aging again. We then get to the category called other. These are the things that don't fit into one of the main categories we've just referenced, but that they encourage you to give your best shot. Things that have been approved, a civilian alert system. So right now, we don't have Code Red or any of the other equivalent public notification systems. So this is a subscription service that everybody that's signed up to it, if not in fact everybody that still has a landline, immediately gets a notification in the case of an incident that needs to be conveyed to everybody as quickly as possible. So that's been approved. A radar message board has also been approved to be able to further communicate information to the passing motoring public. We next see barricades and traffic direction control has been approved. Event tent picnic tables, heavy duty carts and program expenses for the Council on Aging. Plexiglass counter protectors to limit the spread of droplets. If people are actually face-to-face and for some reason a mask isn't doing the trick. The access control system that we've talked about a couple times now, that's already up and operational when you come into the town hall. Barriers on counters. We have a couple of offices, specifically the clerk's office and the land use office, where when the public is walking in the door, there's direct access into the work areas of the employees as opposed to anything stopping the public at a counter to receive service. So this would provide funding to create those barriers. Next, you see the consideration of a Dutch door, if not a counter, in the Selectmen's office, because that's a similar situation. Town meeting tent setup and rental, town meeting sound setup and rental, town clerk vote by mail ballots, town clerk ballot box, and lastly, the fire chief ambulance power load system. The big ticket, $57,000. That is actually a piece of equipment that gets affixed to the back of the ambulance that allows patients to be automatically lifted mechanically into the back of the ambulance as opposed to having multiple people have to be proximate to the patient. So from a COVID perspective, it limits contact. So those things have been approved already. The outstanding issue that we've not yet heard back on is the entire infrastructure for IT at the Library Senior Center. We had an assessment completed by Guardian just last week. We're still functioning off of vintage 2008 Cisco equipment. The servers are 2008 vintage. We have one XP machine still functioning. Nearly everything about it is of that vintage, and they recommend that the entire infrastructure be upgraded. And from a COVID perspective, when we have the public that's going to be required to do remote learning in some fashion or another, when we have people that are unemployed that need to have public access to email, there is an argument that we put forward that it is a COVID appropriate expenditure to have this infrastructure made stable and secure. So that one is still pending. So those are the those are the expenditures that have been either put forward and approved, or the one that's still been put forward but not yet approved to date. We expect that we'll see another round of need come this fall. I think the data indicates that we're going to see an uptick again. We're going to be revisiting some of the same conditions that we had seen. In fact, if you look at the town of Townsend in the state data, you'll see that we have been on a steady incline all along in terms of COVID cases. While the number as of tonight is, I believe, 38 cases for our total population, relatively insignificant in terms of our total population, but it has been a steady increase each week. So with whatever's coming once cold and flu season hits again, we expect that there's going to be another dip into the requests for some of these funds.
Can I ask a question about this?
Please do.
The one place where I think perhaps we might want to look a little more if it's available, short-term rental or mortgage support.
Yep.
Do we know if there's any need for that in town, and where would we find that, and how would we support that? Because I think that with people's jobs maybe not coming back, or people having to support their children at home going to school, they might lose their jobs. I can see where there could be a need for short-term rental or mortgage support. And so I would want to explore that more.
Yep, absolutely. I think, you know, that comes under the 2 residents in their home section that had primarily been looked at by the Council on Aging, because they're the ones that had a built-in connection already with residents in their home through Meals on Wheels. But right. I think it makes great sense, Veronica, to explore that, and I'd be happy to find out what other communities have done, what's been, you know, what framework's been approved in the past, so we're not kind of shooting blindly. And to the extent that we can put our hands around something, we can make that request. And I think it's safe to assume that the need exists. I know conversations that I've had with people that have called seeking support, that need exists. So if we can get the funds, we could then market the program.
Would it be logical to have the housing committee looking at this? I
think the housing authority would be definitely a logical place. I mean, it's a little unusual because unlike housing authorities that actually have housing stock, we don't yet have that. I know that's the goal that's been being pursued for some years here now, and they're finally making some good progress on it. Due to no fault of their own, it's just been kind of stuck. But definitely they would be a good mechanism to use for that. But I can commit to seeing what other communities have been approved on to date, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel or shoot something that doesn't get funded.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Jim. In the interest of time, let's move along to the next stuff. So 515, statutes concerning contracts.
Yes, you also have a document in your packets under 515. You had asked at the last meeting to get a document from council that spoke to the issues of types of contracts in municipal government and lengths of term that were allowed by type of contract. I'm not going to lose the opportunity to say that Adam's document looks remarkably similar to exactly what I told you at the last meeting, down to the specific detail. But there it is from council as opposed to having been expressed by me. And I don't think that there should be any questions, but if there are.
I don't have any.
Anybody?
No, I don't.
No, I'm all set.
All right, next, ethics.
Ethics is another review that you had asked council to provide some guidance on. We referenced it a little bit earlier, and this is specific section 19 of the conflict of interest law and the applicability of section 23 in a specific situation that we were discussing. So the questions to council is the approval or disapproval of a section 19 waiver under chapter 268A a matter in which town council would opine, or is that a policy or legal issue? When you get to his answer, you'll see that the answer to that question is that's not a legal issue, it's a policy issue, and that they would not opine. So if you have facts presented to you by an employee for a Section 19, he's not going to tell you that he thinks you should or shouldn't approve it. He's going to tell you the legality of a Section 19, but he's not going to speak to the specific case before you.
Okay.
Number two, if an employee has a bona fide Section 19 conflict and pursues the 19 waiver, does Section 23B2 have any applicability, or is the 19 waiver, if approved, curative? The answer in short there is that while it's not required by the law, as a firm, they recommend a belts and suspenders, their phrase, that you seek not only the 19 waiver, which is curative, but also the Section 23B waiver. So again, not required by the law, but as a matter of practice, they recommend it. And lastly, do you have a standard form for nepotism as a hiring document? And that goes to the conversation we had a little earlier. And their answer is they don't, that they look at the forms under 268A as sufficient, and anything else would be duplicative.
Okay, thank you for that. Board of Selectmen announcements, updates, reports. I don't have any, Don. I don't know you do. Veronica, I see you have a couple on there.
No, I don't have any right now.
Okay, so Veronica, you can take it away there.
We've kind of covered the website status. I mean, I've gone through the organization chart and tried to match the names with who did what when to who's responsible for the website. We need to get things updated. So I think I don't really have the authority to tell people to update their websites, you know, their web pages. Jim, you and I are going to talk about this when I've got my list ready to roll.
I look
and
forward.
There's an awful lot on that web. It needs to be redone. So do we have, I mean, why don't we have a webmaster? I guess is my question. And do we have one with Guardian?
We don't. It's not part of what was scoped out for IT with Guardian, nor at their rates would it be something that I would recommend that we would even consider.
I just want to say that it might be worth paying for a day or two to sit down with someone from Guardian who can just sit and update that website. I mean, it wouldn't take that long. It just needs someone that knows it. And if you're going to, you know, staff is already working pretty hard. And so if you ask the staff to do it, you may or may not get it done, depending on how busy they are at any given moment.
Sure. I misunderstood. I thought you meant use Guardian as an ongoing web.
No. I mean, I would be happy to sit down with someone, anyone, and just say, okay, here are the pages. Let's do this. Okay. I mean, I don't know how to update the Civic Plus website.
Right.
And I'm not going to do the training myself. I have no reason to do that. But if there's someone who has it and can sit down with me, you know, for a bit, we could probably get that knocked out pretty quickly.
Okay. You're going to be seeing me on a couple other things already, so I'm looking forward to that being on the list, and we'll get that figured out.
So do we need money from Guardian to get a consultant?
Depends on what you've got. When we see what you got and we see what the actual training is, I'm not technically adept at all, and I've been able to work on the town administrator and selectmen's page and do updates. So it may be that it's not terribly difficult to do the things you've identified that need to be done, but we'll know better once I see what you got.
Okay. So that could come back as an agenda item at the next time. DLTA and 43D, I think I already talked about those. Q&A with the select board member. That is through the senior center, and we have the first one on Thursday. And that was really good, I thought. Chief Sartell was there with me. He came in on the call, and we had a person from planning, from the library trustees, and from ZBA. who could answer questions. So it was, I thought, a worthwhile forum.
Okay, can I ask you one thing, a request? Is if you change the title to specifically to you. I got several questions, emails that this was it seemed to be a Board of Selectmen meeting, that there was no posting of an agenda, blah, blah, blah. So
it doesn't, I talked to Adam, and as long as
I did too, and he's strongly recommending that you be specific to you.
The reason I didn't is because I thought that you or Dawn could be on there instead of me if you wanted to.
And we can't do that.
No interest in doing that, then yeah, I'll make it one-on-one with Selectman Cal or something like that.
I never intended on participating in that. I have plenty of communication with the public as it is, so I don't know how you feel.
I've just, let me think about it for a while.
Okay. I mean, if I leave it as it can only be one of us. There can't be two of us on.
I know. I just want to make it clear that this is not a selectmen's meeting. But there will not be more than one of us.
Just a Q&A. That's all.
Okay.
So, but I did specifically do it that way and not put my name on it in case one of you wanted to.
Mr. Chairman, this will dovetail with the next point on the agenda as well, which is open meeting law. I just want to be on record as saying that this type of an event or a recording or an event would be very, very tricky for the open meeting law. For example, if you at your questions with the selectmen last week talked about the DLTA grant.
We did.
I'm sorry?
We did.
Yeah. You also have on the agenda tonight the DLTA grant. So if Wayne or Dawn watched or listened to your presentation, there's a serial communication that just occurred on a matter that is before the board. So I'm not suggesting that it was an open meeting law violation. I'm saying that it's a very, very tricky thing to do because it's easy to become.
I realize that, and I wouldn't have talked about it in that Q&A if it hadn't been that there was a kickoff meeting for it at the planning board meeting last week, Monday, that the board of selectmen were invited to. Sure, I believe, Jim, that you got that. And so once it was out in the public domain, which it was, I cannot see how there could be I didn't speak for Dawn or Wayne or say, we think that there should be this. I didn't speak for the planning board either.
Right, but again, Veronica, just because there's been a public announcement of a meeting doesn't take away a serial communication and the effect of a serial communication of a board under the open meeting law. So if there's an announcement that there's going to be, the circus is, going to be, on the common next Thursday, and it's known publicly, if you and Wayne or you and Dawn talk about that, that's a quorum talking about the matter that you're going to be having issue an entertainment permit for the next week. It's before your board. It doesn't matter that it's been publicly announced and is known. You still can't have communicated serially about it. So the point I make is that
that would be true. But if I talked about it after the permit had already been issued, how would that be an open meeting violation?
Well, on that example specifically, I would say to you, my advice as staff to you would be, if the permit has already been issued, but the event hasn't occurred, there's still enforcement. If the permit has already been issued and the event has already occurred, and they're going to come back next week, or there's another, group that wants to do a similar event. I mean, that's why council has advised since before you and to you that the best practice, which we all strive for, so everything is as transparent as possible, is to not put yourself in a situation where there could even remotely be one of those gray areas. So The only communication serially that should be occurring is setting agendas, schedule one. I mean, there's no good and compelling reason to do anything to the contrary.
Okay, so yeah, I think there is. I think it's good for the people in town to know what's going on in town. And I would never have talked about the DLTA or the 43B, which are actually planning board issues, if it hadn't already been discussed. So it was more, this is what it is, this is what we'll be looking at, and this is the timeline for the project. There's nothing, that's not an opinion, a feeling, a belief, or a deliberation. Serially, Jim, just coming into the office to talk to you could put us at risk for serial communication if you are the conduit for how people feel about things.
I'm very well aware of the law.
So that puts us in the position where the only place we can talk is right here, right now, about anything ever in town.
Yes.
And
this is Joan Savoy. I'd like to say something, please, as a resident. I was on that call, and it was so nice. It was nothing but information that was out. It was just so nice, and there's a real need for it. And the public can't talk to you all. We can't do it at town meeting. We can't, the comments to just have comments at the beginning of these meetings isn't sufficient. People want transparency. They want to be able to ask questions, and there is no forum for that. I'm not saying that people showered Ronnie with questions and it was that kind of thing, because it wasn't at all. It was purely informational, but we do need some sort of forum, and I'm asking you for that, please, as a resident, because people really would like to be able to have hands-on with our select board sometime, where we're not rushed and it's not just comments at the beginning of the BOS meeting. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, respectfully to Ms. Savoy, your quarrel is not with this board or this staff. Your quarrel is with the law, because the irony here is the open meeting law was created to give transparency, to guarantee that the public's business is conducted with the lights on and the doors open. However, even the best intended effort toward transparency, like a member of the board holding the session that was held last Thursday, can run afoul of the law. And it does happen. I have seen it happen. So council's advice, this isn't me, this is the town's legal counsel. Town legal counsel advice is don't put yourself in positions where you're likely to enter into an area that could result in an open meeting law violation.
Yeah. Well, how about
hold on, Joan. I'm going to stop you here. I think the bottom line is you were more than welcome to have. I'm not saying to stop Veronica from doing this. That never is my intention. But if there are, I think the easy way to explain it is if there are topics that you want posed before the Board of Selectmen, she can bring those and put them on the agenda anytime she wants. I welcome that. I've done it. I do it myself. I know Don does as well.
Not everything is about being finished quickly, Wayne.
Lisa, I did not recognize you. That I'm not saying to be done quickly. I'm trying to explain the matter at hand, that Jim is just doing his job to express caution of violation of open meeting law, and just to err on the side of safety, which is the discussion I had with Adam last week as well.
Well, I understand that. So perhaps maybe then to have a welcoming face to the community, maybe once every 2 months, the board could say the first half an hour of the select board meeting could be for the public to ask questions and get some input without feeling like we're rushed or
And I think since I've been chair, I've been very transparent in letting people talk and ask questions, as I am doing right now. So I'm not rushing you. I'm not doing that at all.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Maybe we could just advertise it a little bit then, and I'll sign off.
That's something we can discuss at our next meeting, whether it's something the board wants to entertain or not.
Thank you.
So I will just say that the next one is September 17th at 10:30. If you're concerned, listen in. And, but I did talk to Adam about this before I ever approached anybody to say, can we do this? It was, how can we do it?
And that's fine. I'm just want to just be very clear.
So Wayne and Dawn, you guys aren't allowed to listen in, I guess, because then it would be a meeting, but.
I don't intend to, but if, again, as I said a minute ago, if there are topics that come up with that, that's perfectly within your right to ask to put them on the agenda.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is that it?
Yeah, I think we've hit the other one well enough.
Okay.
So, although, wait, no, I will say that I had 2 documents that I wanted added to the packet. You know, it couldn't have been because it would have been an open meeting law, but it was my part of the conversation that I had with Jim around the open meeting law. Because I did last week talk to both the open meeting law people at the AG's office, and I did talk to, well, I watched the MMA stuff that they just put out in mid-July. And because what I'm trying to figure out is how do we get information amongst ourselves? And so I think I've got it worked out. So we'll see.
But I want to be clear. I want to be clear on what you just posited, because I don't think you and I are still communicating on it.
Perhaps
you after the 48-hour window for posting the agenda, you asked for this additional information to be sent out to the board members.
To be put in the packet, and I would like it put in the minutes as well.
Well,
with everything.
Whatever's being said is being put in the minutes, and I do have them available to screen share if you wanted to go through that level of detail. But because they're being referenced, they'll be a part of the minutes.
Part of the minutes. Okay, that's all I need.
No, that's not it. The fact is, I responded and said I cannot share these documents as you're requesting with the other members of the board, because it would create a serial communication, because you expressed your opinion in the emails. You write, I think, in one point, and I believe, or there's another phrase in there where my job is to keep you out of trouble. That's a large part of my job, whether you like it or not. You know, that's how it works. So I am not going to violate the law by doing it just because you ask me to. So I respond and say that I can't because it'll be a violation. You then, instead of saying, just email it to them, for the email, you then came back and said, well, I made PDFs of the emails. I want this forwarded to them. And I had to again say, Veronica, it's the same thing. I can't do that. So I don't think you still quite understand why it is that can't be done. I'm sorry?
I think I've got it. No problem.
Okay. All right. All right. Clerk of the board announcements for events. I don't have any events, and same top comment I made last meeting. I don't see any in the future. 5-4 reports from board liaisons. I haven't met with anybody in the last 2 weeks.
I have a question about this. Do I contact the people on the general government list and say, hey, I'm your liaison, just see me on your, here's the policy, just CC me on your agendas and all. And
I don't get CC'd necessarily, or I don't really care to, but if there's something that they need, they know where to get me. Some are more vocal than others.
Now, Jim, do you send out the this is your liaison list, or do we send that out and say we're your liaison?
In my experience here in town, which is the first time I've ever seen liaisons like this, the members reach out. Once they've had their assignments, they know who their groups are, they reach out and say, how do you prefer to communicate this? When do you meet? All of that stuff.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Fair enough. Don, I don't know if you had any.
No, I have nothing.
Okay. All right. Last item, review signed bill payables warrants. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I move that we review and sign the bills payable warrant out of session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Don Klein, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. And last thing, I think we all agreed the September 1st, we can still have a remote meeting, Jim?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, I would ask, I'll work with you on rescheduling the attorneys that we had to cancel for today. And I'll ask you to reach out to the board to see if we want it as a standalone versus a part of the executive session as tagged on to the regular meeting. I'm leaning towards the first part of that myself. Yeah, I haven't thought about it quite yet, and so we can discuss that.
Okay.
Anything else, you guys? I think that's it.
I'm all set.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
I move we adjourn at 8:41 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Don Klein, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. All right, thank you everybody for the time tonight.
Good night, folks.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.